Hi. Remember like a week ago when I asked you guys for your input on what you think about Black Eyed Kids? I'm here to kind of wrap that up a little bit. So, obviously that's just for now. If there's more information that comes out about Black Eyed Kids, or if you guys have experiences, I would like to hear about that. So, let's get into it. I'll kind of go into like the history, the lore, all of that stuff. Then I want to get into what you guys commented most frequently because it's very interesting to me. And then, yeah, we'll see where we go from there. Okay. So the lore. The Black Eyed Kids are a modern urban legend that began in the United States in the mid-1990s. The core image is simple and chilling. Children, usually between the ages of 6 and 16 years old, have completely black eyes, no whites, no pupils, who appear usually at night and ask to be let inside a home, a car, or use something of yours. So Brian's account, where he wrote online about this, was that two boys approached his car outside of a movie theater asking for a ride home, something along those lines, to get money for movie tickets. He described an overwhelming sense of dread and noticed that their eyes were completely black and became more insistent about being let into the vehicle. He drove away before they entered. There was also a part of this where he immediately thought it was weird because the last like movie showing of the movie they had talked about had started 45 minutes previously. So to want to go to that movie 45 minutes in and they still need a ride home, or they still need to get in contact with a parent for money, or whatever reasoning it was, he felt it was suspicious. So he drove away, and then when he looked back, there was nobody there. His account spread across early internet forums and paranormal mailing lists, helping cement the template for future sightings. The core characteristics in this lore across retellings, BEKs, tend to share consistent traits: polite but unnerving speech, emotionless or overly formal tone, insistence on being invited inside, appearing in pairs or small groups, overwhelming dread felt by witnesses, black, fully solid eyes, encounters at night near homes, gas stations, or parked cars. The invitation element is a major theme. They don't force entry, they request permission, which is interesting because there's a lot of like folklore that kind of goes into that concept. I mean, which is interesting because I also did not get that in the comments. So like, that's a very vampire thing. That's a very like vampire lore topic, is like that they need permission to enter and you have to grant permission for them to enter. And not one comment was about vampires. I mean, there are things like along the same lines, but it's interesting. There are other supernatural archetypes that they have parallels to. So the vampire lore, changeling myths, demons and spirits in disguise stories, men in black style entities, emotionless and uncanny presence. The invitation rule and emotional manipulation are especially reminiscent of European vampire mythology, which is what I just said. The media amplification in the 2000s and 2010s did also help with the exposure of that, especially in paranormal communities. And I don't know if you guys remember when Creepypasta came out, but like, my generation was obsessed with that. So I've known about this since I was like 12 years old. Probably younger than that, but we'll just stick with 12. It's been featured in discussions on shows such as Coast to Coast AM, Monsters and Mysteries in America. I mean, every paranormal podcast ever. And before I get into what you guys commented, I do want to touch on why this kind of sticks. Why does this kind of concept stick with us? Culturally, I think that everybody's going to have a different thing, you know, and this isn't necessarily like the one thing, but it does tap into some psychological fears that are interesting to me, such as corrupted innocence, the uncanny valley effect, which we do talk about frequently in pop culture right now, and we have for a while, the danger of misplaced compassion, and threshold symbolism, doorways, permission, consent. The idea of a child who feels wrong triggers protective instincts and primal alarm simultaneously, and that is a feeling that we don't always feel in conjunction with each other. So I think that that's kind of why it sticks with people. I think that the idea of like, but it's kids, you're supposed to help the kids, but if the kids make you feel like this deep sense of dread and there's something just off about them, and then you get a closer look and their entire eyes are Black, what are you supposed to think? Are you still supposed to help them? Are they still kids? Like, all of these things start going through your mind, right? So let's go into the comments. What did you guys think when I asked, what do you think about black-eyed kids? What do you think they are? Where do you think they come from? All of those things. The number one answer was demons, which is interesting. Next up on the list, I had Fae and Fae adjacent, which makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know a lot about like Fae interactions and how, like what they would want out of that situation, but similar to the next thing on the list, extraterrestrials and other dimensional beings, it seems like the underlying theme is that there are beings that are trying to get some sort of an outcome out of this, but they're trying to emanate children in a way that they're not trying to freak us out. I think they're trying to make us feel more comfortable with them, with their presence. For whatever reason, whether that's nefarious or not, it does seem like they're trying to be intelligent about how they interact with us. And touching on our empathy is, again, intriguing with the extraterrestrial and other dimensional beings, because, you know, if we're to believe all of the other things that we've learned about these beings, it's that they observe humans because humanity and its empathy is something that like other planets don't seem to have at the same level anyway. So it would make sense that a being wouldn't quite understand how to play into that. They might know like the facts, but like the actual interaction piece of that is something that isn't natural to them. That makes sense to me too. I did have a few comments about people's family or friends that have black eyes, that they would associate them with having like antisocial personality disorder, which is an interesting comparison. Even though that's not what we're talking about, it is interesting that that came up, and I feel like that's a whole separate topic. So if we ever get back into like the psychology of things, maybe we'll get into that. And then the other comment that I got that was interesting, and I'm not sure how related it is about kid ghosts, like just kid ghosts in general. The comments I got about that occurred in the last 15 years or so, so definitely since the 2000s when this was like popping as a concept. But the feelings that were left with the people who experienced it seemed to be similar to black-eyed kids, with like the headaches, the nosebleeds, the weird dreams, the electrical disconnect, like weird things. And they do report experiencing that as well. So I don't know if like they've just evolved from having like completely black eyes. They're like, maybe the black eyes are giving us away a little bit. Maybe it's the formal tone or the way that you're insisting on getting in my car. I don't know, but I don't know. These were all really great comments, really great input. I really appreciated it all, and it was really interesting to look into all of this. Again, if you've had any experiences with this or anything similar, I do want to hear about it. I feel like my next topic should be something like Fae or Fae adjacent conversation. I want to know what kind of experiences you guys have had with that. So maybe that will be the next discussion topic. We will see. But I appreciate you all putting in your comments about this topic. I love talking about these things. So if you have other suggestions as to what we should look into next, let me know.